Reads, and I'm going to be reading from the bottom of page 136, if you have the book on you. At this point in the book, Professor Virendra Kumar has just committed suicide by self-immolation in the name of the pro-death movement. The pro-death movement has the view that life shouldn't be extended through scientific means, that God has a plan for their lives, and that He has planned their lives from birth to death. Needless death is an utter waste. There are times when death is unavoidable, of course, when a brain cannot be revived, or a useless broken body is beyond repair. To me, life is contained energy that by its nature and definition resists extinction, has a will to survive. It was my job to help it go on living, to extend the ability for a consciousness to continue to reside within a body and experience itself in the world outside. And so, needless death, a willful extinction of this energy, such as Professor Kumar's self-immolation, is like destroying a diamond by pulverizing it. I chose this passage because of the way it looks at death in a near-immortal world. It really interested me. The idea of how life in this world has a value to the point where it can be compared to something as precious as a diamond. What I also found interesting about this passage was the way in which suicide means more in a world where life can be so much longer. Cutting it short like this, and in such a public way, might mean more because in giving up a much longer life, it gave publicity to the pro-death movement. It shows that in a world like this, death means more because death has almost become an optional choice for some. And in taking his own life, Professor Kumar was able to make a statement about life, mortality, and religion. Continuing on the point of religion, another interest for me was the fight between religion and technology. With the pro-death movement fighting against technological advancements on religious grounds, the two sides constantly at odds with each other, which I found interesting because in today's world, it's the other way around. Religion is pushing back against technology. Sorry. When you look at this, you can see the pro-death movement is pushing for spiritual advancement, whilst technology holds it back. It then brings up a question of technology becoming its own religion in a way, where people believe so strongly that they have a right to extend their lives as long as possible, to the point where public protests of this include the suicide of Dr. Kumar. It seems to me that the two aren't really that far apart from each other.
So Dr. Frank Sina, the protagonist in the novel, is a doctor who has never encountered death. His profession deals with living and fixing memory leaks of patients who have undergone the process of rejuvenation. In the novel, the rejuvenation process is somewhat of a privilege, debatably a privilege. It is very expensive. Therefore, the people who can afford the procedure are those who carried the wealth with them into their next or new lives. The rich continue living, leaving a gap of inequality between the younger generations. The passage that I chose is on page 183 when Frank is giving a lecture on his profession. Vassanji describes the passage as a point in the public lecture where the public lecture truly turns public. A young man steps up to voice his opinion on the issue. My name is Musa. My point is that while you, the elderly elite, find ways to prolong your existence with new organs and new lives and monopolize the world's resources, what about us young people? When do we get a chance? Youth unemployment is approaching 30%. I don't mind telling you that I cannot find a job. And the woman I love, a young woman, not a reconstituted senior citizen, lives with an elderly man, sells her services just to be able to survive. What gives people like you the right to more life than others? Why can't you just say, I've had enough, let others live? So I chose this passage because I feel that it highlights the social, economic, and religious reasons for why the younger generations are seeking a change. When I think about the generations that came before me, my parents, my grandparents, I see differences in the cost of things like education or buying a new home. But when I hear older generations talk about the way that things were, I feel a sort of fondness, or I understand their longing for a simpler time. A time when things were cheaper and a time without technology. But I really enjoyed the way that this novel kind of flipped that notion. The fonder times for the older generation are fictitious, and technology is embedded in who they are. Reading M.G. Vassanji's Nostalgia, I was put into a world where people's history, their past, and their stories can simply disappear, some by choice and others not. It left me wondering for weeks after, what then would a person be without those things? With the 150th anniversary celebrations of Canada in mind, I think that Canada needs to read this book as a way or an opportunity to think about these themes in relation to our own country's history.